Public Q&A presents Ask Reddit question. What's something that was designed for the use of one sex, but is now predominantly used by the other? Old Spice was launched by Schulten Inc. in 1937. William Lightfoot Schultz was inspired by his mother's potpourri, and as a result, the first Old Spice product in 1937 was a woman's scent called Early American Old Spice. The product was received well, and therefore followed with Old Spice for Men in 1938. I love Old Spice and I am female. My husband and I share deodorants. I'm hoping one day Old Spice will make a line for women, sea hag, forest witch, something tough, and not fluffy like lavender flower blossom or something. I didn't know Old Spice used to be for women. Reclaim Old Spice women's deodorant is trash. Can we please get men's deodorant for women? I want to smell like a forest witch. I use Old Spice Wilderness with lavender. And I would absolutely use Sea Hag in a heartbeat. I remember reading somewhere that Kleenex was made for ladies to remove their makeup, but their husbands were blowing their noses in them. And now we all blow our noses in them. That's not all I blow in them. Get a load of this guy, I just came for the jokes. Filtered cigarettes in general, but Marlboro made the biggest leap in terms of gendered marketing. Once that whole conspiracy theory came out that like cigarettes, are it bad for you or something, and more people switched to filtered cigarettes, it's filtered, that means it's good for you. Was around the time the Salt of the Earth classic American Marlboro Man came into existence, trying to distance the brand from its previously woman-focused advertisements. Marlboro Reds referenced the color of the filter, which was red so that it wouldn't show lipstick. Kind of funny that reds are considered manly now, and women are more likely to smoke the lights which have white filters. Interesting, is like an example of marketing intention versus context. Marlboro Reds wanted to make lipstick marks invisible. But TV and cinema romanticized the lipstick mark, so lipstick in a white filter became symbolism for sex. Because she's smoking his cigarette. Those leg stirrups they use at the gynecologist were invented for removing kidney bladder stones in men. They used to cut from below the testicles and cut right through the prostate. It had a very low survival rate, and was not approved by the medical profession. The original Hippocratic Oath had a section on not cutting for stone, meaning they swore not to surgically remove the stones because of it. They later removed that section of the oath, otherwise a bunch of urologists would be out of a job. Bladder stones, not kidney stones. To get to a kidney stone through the taint you would be elbow deep in the patient. I believe you just found the reason the survival rate was so low. Victoria's Secret was originally supposed to be a place for men to buy lingerie for their wives, and not feel embarrassed, but now it's almost exclusively shopped at by women. There's a great monologue in The Social Network about this. A Stanford MBA named Roy Raymond wants to buy his wife some lingerie, but he's too embarrassed to shop for it at a department store. He comes up with an idea for a high-end place that doesn't make you feel like a pervert. He gets a $40,000 bank loan, borrows another $40,000 from his in-laws, opens a store, and calls it Victoria's Secret. Makes $500,000 his first year. He starts a catalog, opens 3 more stores, and after 5 years he sells the company to Leslie Wexner, and the Limited for $4 million. Happy ending, right? Except 2 years later, the company's worth $500 million and Roy Raymond jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. Poor guy just wanted to buy his wife a pair of thigh highs. He put 4 years of work in, and had $100,000 of loans, and when it was finally doing well he sold it for $4 million. How could you be so good and bad at business at the same time? I don't know. $4 million is a nice sum for 1982. I doubt the movie is accurately portraying his mental issues rather than his regret at not making more money. Yeah. It was only $1 million, not $4 million. He didn't kill himself until a decade after the sale. He founded a bunch of utterly failed business after leaving VS, where he had a job as president under Wexner. So really, whole series of mistakes. The same Leslie Wexner who bankrolled Jeffrey Epstein. including making Epstein how rich he was and letting him control his business and money. Really? It was a pretty revolutionary idea. Roy Raymond sold it for $1 million in '82, and threw himself off the Golden Gate Bridge in '93. I learned this from the Social Network movie. I thought it was exaggerated for drama, but no. Yeah, he didn't do that because of selling Victoria's Secret though. He failed to incorporate another business he had, it went bankrupt, and lost everything. Guys, I think I found out Victoria's Secret, and now they're closing 250 stores. The quality has gone to shit in the last couple of years. I had a VS bra in high school that lasted me 4 years, which is crazy long considering I only own 2. I bought one last year, and the fabric between the cups ripped in half in 6 months. It's insane how sharply the quality has nosedived. I have underwear from there that I bought in high school, 8 years ago, that's still in good condition. I bought the same exact cut of underwear from them a year ago, and it's already developed holes. Same, I exclusively bought undies from VS, and they lasted forever. Then I bought a few, and not only did they have less material for the same cut, I hate that they fell apart before my original ones did. That explains why everything looks sexy but nothing is comfortable or fits properly. Heels, if I remember correctly, that's correct. High heels were originally made for butchers to wear, who were mostly men, so that they could keep their feet clean of any blood from slaughtering animals. It's worth pointing out that, while this is true, they were more of the block heel type. You know, for anyone who's now thinking of ancient Egyptian butchers walking around wearing black leather fuck-me stilettos. I might have a new fetish time to make a subreddit dedicated to your newfound fetish r/meet men. This is the new r/Hitler in socks dude. The random fucking subreddits nobody would even dream of searching for that I have stumbled across because of comments like this one. I feel bad for the poor FBI son of a bitch assigned to watch me. It's a learning experience for them too. It's all good. Don't feel bad. We all get a laugh on your account here at HQ, thanks for keeping it interesting. Smiley face love, the FBI. What? They were also used for men while riding horses. They helped them stand up in the stirrups. It doesn't exactly help you stand. What it does is prevent your feet from slipping through the stirrups, which if you were to fall off would result in traumatic injury. And for this reason, all riding boots still have a standard 1 or higher heel. Cowboy boots are also designed to come off easy, so you don't get your leg tore off if you jump or fall off, and the heel gets stuck. It's unlikely that your leg would come off, more likely that you would go for an unpleasant ride beneath your horse's feet as you get dragged along the ground. But yes, losing a boot is far more ideal. I thought that was platforms, while heels were meant to help keep a horseman's feet in the stirrups. And for men on horseback to stay in the stirrups better. I think also in the high courts of France men wore them to accentuate their calves. I believe this occurred after the initial use of keeping in stirrups, and was the start of using the formerly functional design for fashion. Smiley face. Never heard that explanation before. As far as I know, they were invented by for Persian men in the 10th century for horseback riding, so their feet would fit better in the stirrups. I misread the question and thought it asked what was first used for sex, but now for something else. This answer confused me. Crop tops. A football thing, initially. Like young Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elms. Ezekiel Elliott has entered the chat. The Ford Mustang. It was supposed to be a car with a big trunk so you could fit all the groceries in it. There was even an ad or article stating that you can own a Mustang that matches the color of your lipstick. Makes sense why a lot of old Mustangs are red. I think Mustangs are still probably one of the more popular sports cars for women, even though a lot of men drive them as well. I'm not a car fanatic, but I like to look at cars and ask people what they drive / talk about how different cars feel to drive. This is only to preface my anecdotal experience that almost every Mustang owner I know is a lady, and also almost every single one of them is in debt and in medical school. It's a really weird niche. Be happy you don't live near a military base then. Full of 19, year-old driving Mustangs, Chargers and other ME2s, and they are all V6 with excellent double-digit interest rate loans. Shit. Go to a submarine base. Hellcats everywhere. BMW M cars. Z06 Corvettes. GT350S, top trim Super Duty pickups. Throw in a Lotus or Viper or two or something else weird. Better bonuses. And then Carroll Shelby is like, damn, that V8 looks nice in there. Ugg boots were originally worn by male surfers, with their girlfriends stealing and wearing them like they would a leather jacket. Edit. I have been educated by my Aussie friends that they're worn by all down under, as slippers and such. I was speaking of their history here in the US, where they were mostly introduced by surfers on the West Coast, and now they are, almost, exclusively worn by women here. I never got Uggs as a concept. Aren't they terrible with water? How the fuck are they winter wear? Edit. I have been sufficiently informed that they were created in Australia. My bafflement is their continued use in the same form in snow-prone countries. I believe in Australia, where they originate, they were made more as like house slippers. So I do think their original intention was to be worn outside. As an Australian, I can confirm this is what they are supposed to be used for. Some people wear them outside but not very often, as they have foam soles that wear out very fast, and are terrible for walking in. Edit. They do make leather and rubber-soled ones for outdoor use, can confirm. Am wearing them now. They're basically the posh version of slippers and super comfortable. It's meant to be something comfy and warm to get your circulation and body temp up after a day of surfing in the cold ocean. It's likely that your feet would also be sore if you've been on a board all day. Surfing requires your feet quite a bit. People who wear them as winter boots are just being stupid. Thanks for saying more than they were for surfers. Edit to add, a girl in my school used them in our very wet German winter. Not necessarily rainy that year, but the snow was dirty mush. She used plastic bags around her Uggs to keep her feet dry and warm. Maybe don't walk to school in slippers. We have shoes for that. What? No way. Growing up as a swimmer in the 90s in San Diego, we all wore Uggs in between races to keep our feet warm. I feel like they didn't become a basic thing until like 10 years later. Is this how Family Feud gets new questions and answers? Steve Harvey, name one thing that gets harder the longer you stroke it. Contestant 1, a toaster. Steve Harvey, that isn't up there but good answer. Contestant 2, my penis. Steve Harvey, Sophie Wolfnex small socks. C. Steve Harvey. We asked 100 people, what is the male reproductive organ? Contestant, the penis. SH, a WUH. Huh. Audience erupts into laughter. Steve Harvey grabs onto podium to support himself. Laughter gets even louder. SH, oh Lord. One man goes into cardiac arrest and many others begin vomiting profusely from laughing too hard. SH, you people need help. The earth shatters and Satan rises from the underworld to claim unworthy souls. The universe begins rapidly closing in on itself. SH, putting on a weary voice, survey says. The board shows 104 penis. Harvey is able to get off one more shocked look before existence as we know it comes to an end. Holy hell, this was good. Wish I could take credit, but it's a copy pasta. Still legendary though. Every fucking show negative squared capital letter P, show me breaking the fourth wall. Ding. Hello. 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 Cigarettes. They were designed for women, to be a more feminine version of a cigar. The name, literally, cigarette. Like bachelor/et. Skirts used to be worn in battle by men for more room to move around. Skirts/dresses used to be for both men and women since they're much easier to make than pants. It didn't really switch from being for one gender to the other, one gender just stopped using them. I'm imagining a bunch of soldiers in a world war holding rifles. You mean like an army of Scots in kilts? Now I'm turned on. Thanks. Look up the ladies from hell. Thank you, but I've met my mother. So have we. I am heartily sorry for your loss. http www.tartansauthority.com/resources/archives/the Great War like this. A battalion of Scotsmen in WWI wore their kilts into combat, and the Germans gave them the nickname, the Ladies from Hell. Pretty close. Edit. I'm going to take this opportunity to mention Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast. Blueprints to Armageddon is spectacular. Jack Churchill, if I remember, fought in the World War wielding a claymore and longbow. One think he might have worn a kilt as well, but I'm unsure. He's the guy with the only confirmed kill with a longbow, right? He actually was very successful. If I recall, he carried out multiple night raids on the Germans and captured hundreds alive. There was a point where the Germans actually believed he was a demon. And yet documents say he rode into battle of a motorcycle shooting people with his longbow. He was also captured by the Germans and kept prisoner. He was given a really cushy cell, all to himself, and received the best treatment a German prisoner could ask for. Why? Because his surname was Churchill. They thought he was related to Winston Churchill, and that they would be able to use him to get over on the Prime Minister himself. If I remember rightly, he lived out the rest of the war as their prisoner, and was rescued once the war was over. After a quick check, he escaped the Germans a few times. When the Germans had to abandon the camp, Jack Churchill walked 150 kilometers until he met a US armored unit. After this, he was redeployed to Burma to fight in the Pacific War in 1945. Supposedly by the time he reached India, Hiroshima and Nagasaki had been nuked and the war was over. Sources state that Jack Churchill was actually upset that the war was over, stating that they could have kept it going another 10 years. P.S. I love how this turned into a few guys talking about Jack Churchill. Skirts used to be worn by Greek and Roman men all the time. Breeches were for the barbarians. Modern pants are a Middle Eastern import, Turkish I think. The Romans adopted Celtic and Germanic trousers in the regions of the empire north of the Mediterranean, where the weather was cooler. From there, the civilizations that followed Rome in modern France, Germany, Iberia, the British Isles and Italy wore these Celtic-style trousers. The basic design would perpetuate with some changes through the centuries to today. Honestly, I'd love for skirts to become a neutral clothing item again. They look comfy as fuck. Be the change you wish to see in the world, smiley face. Our external hardware would benefit from this. Leggings. In the early Renaissance, young, fashionable men just stopped wearing their skirts/robes. The old, religious men were absolutely scandalized. Sounds familiar, no? Edit. Of course, there's more to it than this, but this is the very simplified jest. The scandal wasn't really the leggings. Men had been wearing various types of leggings, split hose earlier, and then increasingly joint hose by the 1400s, for hundreds of years or forever, really, if you include the various Vikings, Anglo-Saxons, etc., who wore pants before all that. The scandal was that, in prior centuries, tunics reached near the knees, or were at least long enough to cover the pelvic area. By the late 1300s, though, men started wearing shorter, tighter tunics and jackets, which revealed the pelvis in front and back. Considering at the time that split hose only covered the legs, and not the pelvis, this wasn't entirely surprising, since it basically meant that fashionable men started walking around with their underwear exposed. Then they started joining the hose together in back, and putting a cod piece over the front. Then someone had the genius idea to start making cod pieces bigger and bigger. How do you know this? I don't doubt you, I just want to know if you're doing a PhD in medieval clothing or something weird like that. No, I'm just a gigantic nerd. I started going to Renaissance fairs a couple years ago, and before COVID, wanted to try to get into some other reenacting. I wanted to get as close to a roughly period-accurate costume as I could, so I started doing a lot of research, and that's one of the things I learned. Fun bonus fact: the hose stayed tight on the legs because they had stirrups on the bottom under the heel. As the 1300s drew on, and especially once joint hose were in fashion, one way to display/enjoy your wealth was to have hose made with full feet, rather than just stirrups. Thus, leaving only the poor peasant class wearing stirrup hosen. Later, during the late 1400s and 1500s, hose started getting pretty complicated, with quite a few different cut pieces being sewn together to make fun striped pants. These fun striped pants were especially popular among the Landsknecht mercenaries, who also wore extremely poofy, colorful shirts and big hats with feathers. They were very ostentatious and carried big great swords. These fun striped pants were especially popular among the Landsknecht mercenaries, who also wore extremely poofy, colorful shirts and big hats with feathers. They were very ostentatious and carried big great swords. Now I'm picturing the Swiss Guard uniforms. This is exactly what you should be picturing, since Landsknechts were more or less the German, great sword-carrying version of the pike-armed Swiss mercenaries, many of whom ended up serving the Papal States in the Italian Wars, and went on to become the Swiss Guard. There isn't a ton of difference between Landsknechts and Swiss mercenaries, other than a roughly speaking, nationality. DHT cream. They sell it for use as penis enlarging cream, which it doesn't do because men already have high levels of DHT in their bloodstream. However, it does actually make clits permanently larger. /grow your clit is about that. You really do learn something new every day. Not only am I just amazed, but everyone in that sub just seems to be really factual and supportive. Good for them. I have never in my life heard of this before. Wow. I wonder why it started. 2 reasons seem to be of greatest interest: to make it easier to find by the owner or partner, and to make it easier to stimulate. Some want to orgasm quicker, some want stronger orgasms, and a few just want to be able to orgasm. Finding that tiny sensitive organ can be a serious matter, because about half range from rice grain to small pea size. Most of the remainder are no larger than a corn kernel, about 1/4 inch. Many women have never seen their clits, because they are simply too small, and buried under or in other tissue. Another reason to enlarge your clit. A few want a mini penis that can be stroked similarly to an intact penis. The good news is you can grow a much larger clitoris, and you can do it reasonably quickly. The more you know, the more you grow. Fun fact: the clitoris is actually much bigger than just the external bit. Whoa! Thank you for the knowledge. Just when you think you know about something, new information finds a way to surprise you. Well, every day is a school day. Holding doors for people. A woman was supposed to hold the door for a man, so he could check for any dangers in the building. The thought was mainly for married couples, but it could be done to a total stranger as well. At some point it flipped and turned to just being a polite thing to do. The theory I heard was that women began to enter first to make sure the man didn't have any enemies in the room because they wouldn't shoot her. Something related to the mafia. Interesting. I can say in my house at night my wife makes me go in first. Hitachi magic wand. It was originally manufactured for relieving tension and relaxing sore muscles. Often used by athletes, but now is famous for its use as a sex toy / industrial strength vibrator. And now they relieve tension and relax the whole body instead of one muscle. Upgrades people, upgrades for me. They relieve tension and relax the whole body by stimulating one muscle. The clit is a muscle. The instruction manual for the Hitachi magic wand is one of the greatest documents in history, no lie. They know what you're using it for, and they want you to know they know what you're using it for, your dirty little birdies, but they're sure as hell not going to be the ones to come out and say it first. The rated maximum continuous use of your massager is 25 minutes. That's really long enough. Under the section, Care After Use and Storage, Cleaning, I present Step 3. If necessary, wipe it with a damp cloth, certainly not while it's still plugged into the power source. The not plugged into power reminds me of a video I saw. One of 2 girls using it between themselves is the best way I could say that, and something happens, and the wand shorts out, and a spark flies off. It says not to use on unexplained calf pain. It says that twice. I would pay $20 Canadian dollars for the story behind that. I suspect it has to do with things like deep vein thrombosis, which can present as sudden unexplained calf pain. It's possible that the heavy massage can make the clot shift and migrate around your body. If it gets to the blood vessels that supply the lungs, that's a pulmonary embolism, and that can very easily be good night, Vienna. I guess I owe you 20 Canadian dollars now. This section after precautions might be my favorite section in the manual. The Hitachi massager is designed as a refreshing relief at the end of a busy day. After work, before or after sports, and for removing everyday dullness, your Hitachi magic wand is always ready to help you. Sometimes you just got to remove that everyday dullness. Never drop or insert any object into any opening. One of my sisters was given one by her husband as a present, but she didn't care for it. My other sister has a bad shoulder, so she offered it to her as a massager. She mentioned that it had other uses but perhaps wasn't quite explicit enough about what, and my sister didn't pick up on it. 2 days later, and Sis 2 phones Sis 1, furious because her 26-year-old son had dropped by and saw the box lying casually on the sofa and fell about laughing. Edit, typos. At least he didn't find her wobbly sausage. I always think of the Sex and the City episode where Samantha tries to return it faced with tears of joy. Yes, I'd like to return this vibrator. We don't sell vibrators. Yes, you do. I bought it here 6 months ago. That's not a vibrator, it's a neck massager. No, it's a vibrator. Sharper Image doesn't sell vibrators, it's a neck massager. You expect me to believe that women buy these to help their sore necks? I think it was Brookstone, but they had a whole wall of personal massagers at my old mall. Young me thought it was hilarious. I wonder what the founders of the Hitachi magic wand wondered when they started to realize their product wasn't being used for its original purpose. Who would use their vibrator on their shoulder? Them. Probably. The first time I went to Japan, I stayed with a friend at her parents' house in her brother's old room. I went to put some of my stuff away in the closet, and there I saw, for the first time in real life, one of these. I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, this is embarrassing, oh shit, and tried my best to put it out of my mind. Not till like a month later was I like, oh wait. Isn't that thing's initial purpose to massage shoulders and stuff? Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Who knows, though, right? Back in 1990 my GF bought one to use as a massager. It was too intense on her shoulders and back and caused more pain than it helped with. That was when it became a vibrator for us. Yeah, we got ours for personal use but tried it out once on a tight muscle. Holy wow, that did not feel nice at all. Pink and blue were originally considered colors for boys and girls, respectively. I've heard this, but I never bothered to see when and why it changed. All babies and toddlers wore dresses. Baby blue related to the Virgin Mary is my understanding, and red was manly apparently, so pink was the childish version of manly red. Isn't it something to do with royalty? Purple was the most expensive luxurious color, so the king wore purple and the princes would be in lighter shades, to show the royal color but imply a slightly lower rank, so pink. Yes. In ancient Rome the amount of red, or magenta I guess, in your robe was a sign of status. It was really hard to make and very expensive. Since almost only men were rich, only they could afford to show it off with expensive colors, and I think there was a thing about women not owning things. It all legally belonged to their husbands, so good luck getting clothes that showed a status as high as a man's. Well, I brought the answer to you. Apparently, in the 1920s, some groups had been describing pink as a masculine color, an equivalent of the red that was considered to be for men, but lighter for boys. But stores nonetheless found that people were increasingly choosing to buy pink for girls, and blue for boys, until this became an accepted norm in the 1940s. That's not really an answer as to why the change happened so much as confirmation that the change occurred. If you want an answer from the internet, you need to say something false and piss off someone who knows what they're talking about. Hitler used pink to denote homosexuals in concentration camps. Pretty sure that isn't false. I don't know if this podcast, Every Little Thing, Pink for Girls, Blue for Boys, would fully answer your question, but it was a really good listen. Basically, boils down to marketing. This article from Live Science says it has to do with French fashion influencing marketing in the 20th century. But yeah, there's no such thing as gendered colors. My wife bought my 7-month-old son a pink hat, and we think it looks good on him. We keep getting people asking us, why did you get him a pink hat? It's because he looks cute, and he's a baby. And it blocks out the Sunday G's. The correct answer to that question is always to put on his head. My hoodie apparently. I had to borrow my hoodie from my friend the other night. Just not right. It's just so much comfier than using your own hoodies. I really don't know why, but it's true. For the exact same reason that sandwiches taste better when someone else makes it for you. Science. Thanks for the award, new internet friend. Sandwiches are important, they always fit better. And smell better too. This is my life. Fortunately, now my daughter is old enough that she is re-stealing the stolen hoodies from my wife. Karma. And she'll give them back to you to remember her by when she goes to college. It all comes back around. Because she gets to steal them from the college boys. Angry dad noises. Just wait until she gives you one that wasn't yours from a school she doesn't attend. As a girl dad, when my daughter starts dating, I'm going to give her a hoodie scavenger list in my size. If she brings me a dark green American Giant in XXL, curfew will be midnight for a month. See, I just went to the shop, walked into the men's section, bought a hoodie, and I keep it with my boyfriend's clothes. Compromises. This is the big brain play. I upvoted this while wearing my husband's hoodie. I mean my hoodie. Mine. My boyfriend keeps stealing my hoodies as revenge. My girlfriend's hoodies were all mine, so I can't steal them, in theory. Shaving razors were made for men, but women shave a good bit more now, both in frequency and surface area. Area yes, frequency eh. I drunkenly shaved my legs a month ago, and my friend was shocked. I would have had to shave the next day if I wanted to stay smooth. She only shaves like twice a week, and is always smooth. I'm so jealous of people like that. If I shave my legs at night, they're prickly by lunch the next day. Edit. Thanks for all the replies. I should have mentioned, despite this, I only shave like once every 1 to 2 weeks, lol. I mostly just shave the really thick area of hair around my ankles because I hate the feeling of it rubbing up against my work boots and getting tangled in my wool socks. I get prickly so quick. My husband asked me to stop shaving. I did, and no one noticed. I'm a woman, and I wish I was like your friend. I'm so pale and my hair is so dark that it's still visible after I shave it. It's also prickly by the end of the day. I only shave twice a week too, but that's because I don't feel like doing it more, not because it's not visible. Makeup, also primarily worn by wealthy men back in the day. Makeup for both sexes is as old as civilization. Face powder probably, but what about the less subtle stuff like mascara and lipstick? IIRC mascara was used to accentuate mustaches and beards to look thicker. Later adapted to accentuate eyelashes. Painted ladies were a term for prostitute because wearing makeup was not the norm for women. Lipstick was initially unisex. It was invented by the Sumerians and the Egyptians, and both men and women wore it as a status symbol. Computers. Tedious computing and calculating was seen as women's work through the 1940s. Wikipedia. Women_in_computing. Wristwatches. They were made because most women didn't have pockets for pocket watches. Now I pretty much just see men wear them, though they've started to fall out of style. Edit. Alright, I've had about 500 people tell me wristwatches are so in right now. I get it. Men began wearing wristwatches before women did, as it was more convenient to wear a wristwatch in the trenches, and for WW1 pilots navigating cross-country flights. One of the things that kept pocket watches popular for longer was accuracy in timekeeping. For many years railroad watches were required by law to be pocket watches of 16 or 18 size. Historically, women wore their watch on a brooch. Starting with 8 size in the 1860s, 6 size in the 1870s to 1890s, and 0 size in the early 1900s. When the brooch fell out of style, women began wearing wristwatches. This also happened to coincide with watchmaking production technology being able to mass-produce very tiny movements. It had nothing to do with pockets. I am a certified master watchmaker by the Chicago School of Watchmaking, and I have been restoring antique pocket watches and wrist watches for 14 years. I'm also a commercial and instrument-rated pilot with an interest in early 20th century aviation history. You think they've fallen out of style? I feel like there's a huge resurgence of interest in wristwatches stemming from trends like the Shock and Apple Watch in younger people. I casually mentioned that I liked the Hulk Rolex in a college class, and it started a big conversation between like 15 guys about high-end watches out of nowhere. Young dudes still like watches, we just can't afford them. I've worn a watch since I was 8 years old. Right now, it's a $40 Shock with a 10-year battery and 200 mAh water resistance. I like it because I don't have to worry about it. I know my phone shows the time, but the convenience of having the time on your wrist is major. I once broke my strap, and for a week or two had to use my phone for the time, and the hassle was really noticeable. I've been leaving my watch at home lately so I don't have to worry about cleaning it, still scared of corona, and I can't tell you how many times I've looked down at my wrist, realized my watch isn't there, and then sighed before popping my phone out of my pocket. Watch those wrist watches. I have a good example that's unfortunately about 100 years old. Back during the World War, tampons were commonly found in med kits for soldiers due to a need for bandages, etc. Edit. After a quick fact check, I have discovered that using tampons for bullet wounds has occurred back to the 18th century. Also, I know this isn't quite predominantly just thought, it was a kind of neat facts. If I'm factually incorrect, please correct me, as I don't want to spread misinformation. pp. Tampons may provide extremely short-term relief from mild bleeding, but in case of severe hemorrhaging it's recommended to use anything with a large surface area, and to keep pressure on the wound. Ideally, hemostatic dressings or gauze is available. However, medical professionals have stated that even clothing may be effective. As well as this, tourniquet are also encouraged if the wound is on a limb. This is due to the fact that tampons offer no hemostatic properties and can only absorb around 9 milliliters of blood. I was wondering when I would run into this answer. This was the first thing that came to my mind too. I myself am a little hazy on the details, but Ugg tampons were first created to plug up bullet holes and stop the bleeding for injured men on the front line, but the nurses serving in the medical facilities in the war soon found out they could, well, stick it up there and it would serve the same purpose. I don't actually know when this started, but I seem to recall women starting to use them during WW1. This might be total bullshit though, laughing face. Not literally sex related, but I'd say the MLP fandom. Made for little dainty girls, used by old fat guys. Hey, stop excluding the skinny old guys and the young fat guys. Automatic cars, they were made for women because it was believed women couldn't or wouldn't be able to use a stick shift, that it was too complicated for them. My ex-girlfriend had to deal with that shit a lot. She worked at a place that loaded cars onto trains, and people would tell her, that car is a manual, we'll get someone else to move it. She'd just grab the keys, hop in and say, why, before driving off. Every car she's ever owned has been a manual. She's a fucking pro. This must be in North America. In most parts of the world, everyone at least learns on a manual transmission. I know that in the UK, if you take the test in an automatic, you have to retake it in a manual, if you want to drive them. My mum and I got into an argument about this when I wanted to rent a car in the UK, since I only had a US license, and she assumed that meant I could only drive an automatic. Nope, Mum, I learned in a manual. Your manual. Same in the Netherlands. The default driving license, B, is stick. Automatic, B78, is the exception. When I was learning how to drive, my driving school had 14 manuals and a grand total of 1 automatic, which the instructors lovingly called Edge Automate, Eddie Automatic. While people do attach a stigma to driving an automatic, especially if you're a guy, since men seem to be culturally obliged to always take the hardest way out, driving instructors don't. They appreciate that driving actually isn't very easy at all. I've got executive functioning issues which made driving stick difficult. I have a B78 license and am thus legally banned from driving stick. If I want to drive stick, I'll have to take more driving lessons and redo the exam. Even now, I'm not good at driving and don't like to do so. Driving legitimately is fun, especially driving a manual, but the problem is there's traffic on the road. If I drive for 2 hours, I'm exhausted. Wow! You are still with us. Thanks for being such a nice person. As long as you are here, why not like this video and subscribe to our channel? Also, you can press the bell icon, so you won't miss any future uploads.